Turn off that damn siren! It's deafening!
Dolores Whitman screamed this in my face, while tornado sirens were wailing outside our HOA meeting. Dark clouds were churning overhead, wind howling like banshees. I'm a retired meteorologist who installed this system to save lives, but she just banned it for destroying property values. Here's what makes me sick. Her husband Brad runs the county's biggest storm damage company. Every house that gets ripped apart without early warning means millions in profit for them. My siren gives families time to take shelter, and that's cutting into their blood money. So, while real tornadoes are forming above us, she's silencing the warnings to maximize destruction for profit. But tonight, when she comes pounding on my door in the middle of a howling twister, she'll learn why you never mess with Mother Nature's early warning system. Have you ever been punished for trying to save lives? Drop your location below. Let me tell you how this war started. 3 months ago, I thought I'd found paradise in Willowbrook Estates, a quiet subdivision outside Tulsa, where my biggest worry would be keeping up with the neighbors' perfectly manicured lawns. My wife Sarah and I had just survived 18 months of hell fighting her cancer, and we deserved some peace. I'm Marcus Blackwood, retired meteorologist. 30 years of tracking storms taught me one thing: early warning saves lives. That's why the first thing I did after moving in was install a $12,000 NOAA-certified tornado siren system. The smell of fresh cedar from our new construction still lingered when I mounted that 40-foot tower. Sarah stood in our driveway, breathing in that clean Oklahoma air while I calibrated the equipment. The crunch of gravel under her feet as she walked the perimeter, checking sight lines. "Now I feel safe," she whispered, her voice still raspy from chemo treatments that had damaged her hearing. The monthly test echoed across vinyl-sided McMansions like a mechanical guardian angel. The Hendersons next door, young couple with twin toddlers, gave me a grateful thumbs up. Old Pete Martinez across the street, a Vietnam vet who understood the value of preparation, nodded his approval. These were my allies, people who valued safety over aesthetics. Then there was Dolores's faction, the image-obsessed crowd who measured neighborhood worth in property appraisals rather than human lives. They whispered in their perfectly landscaped driveways, shooting disapproving glances at my tower while sipping their morning lattes. The violation notice appeared 3 days after installation, tucked under my windshield wipers like a death threat. The texture of that thick cream cardstock felt expensive between my fingers. Dolores loved her power symbols. Immediate violation, unapproved structure exceeding height restrictions. I laughed. Actually laughed while holding that absurd notice. I'd gotten county emergency services approval, filed all permits, even had HOA architectural committee sign-off. Here's the legal nugget that saved me. Oklahoma Statute 1141-136 protects meteorological equipment on private property. HOA covenants can't override state emergency preparedness laws. Bottom line, when it comes to life safety, state law trumps HOA rules. But Dolores didn't care about laws. "There's been a mistake," I told her during our phone call. "Your committee already approved my installation. I wasn't properly consulted." Her voice could have frozen the Oklahoma heat. "That monstrosity is destroying property values, and I want it gone. Emergency services requires, I don't care what they require. This is my neighborhood." Click. The dial tone buzzed in my ear like an angry wasp. That's when I realized Dolores Whitman wasn't just an overzealous HOA president. She was a 48-year-old real estate agent who'd ruled our subdivision for 6 years like her personal kingdom. White Escalade with Rules 1ST vanity plates, perfectly straight blonde hair, and the kind of smile that could cut glass. The real sucker punch came the following week. A $500 monthly fine for noise violations creating resident anxiety and disrupting property showings. The irony was suffocating. My system only activated during severe weather, which we hadn't experienced since installation. But here's what made the metallic taste of fury fill my mouth. I discovered her husband Brad owns Sooner Storm Solutions, the county's biggest damage restoration company. Every house flattened without warning meant massive insurance payouts and reconstruction contracts. My early alerts gave families time to protect their property, cutting directly into their blood money. Sarah found me that evening staring at the fine notice, thunder rumbling ominously outside our kitchen windows. She scheduled an emergency HOA meeting for Thursday. I said. Sarah's face drained of color. That's my chemo appointment. The smell of approaching rain mixed with my wife's lavender shampoo as she leaned against me. Dolores had deliberately chosen the one day she knew I couldn't attend. She wanted to ram through her siren ban without opposition, leaving our neighborhood defenseless against the storms building on the horizon. That night, I started my war chest, documenting every email, every violation, every dirty trick. I thought I was fighting petty tyranny. I had no idea I was building a federal case file. Dolores didn't waste time after that rigged emergency meeting. The vote was a joke, 12-3 in favor of removing my unauthorized structure. Half the people voting didn't even live near my siren, but Dolores had packed the room with her real estate cronies, who'd never seen a tornado shred a neighborhood. The Hendersons and Pete Martinez voted against the ban, but their voices were drowned out by Dolores's hand-picked jury. Mr. Blackwood has 48 hours to remove the structure or face daily fines of $100, she announced, that plastic smile never leaving her face. We must maintain community standards. Community standards. Like keeping people alive wasn't a standard worth maintaining. But here's where Dolores made her first critical mistake. She filed a formal complaint with Tulsa City Code Enforcement, claiming my siren violated municipal noise ordinances. She figured the city would do her dirty work for her. Dead wrong. That weekend, I buried myself in the county clerk's office, breathing in the musty smell of old filing cabinets and decades-old paperwork. Years of reading meteorological regulations had taught me something valuable. Bureaucrats love their loopholes, and emergency equipment gets special treatment everywhere. After 3 hours of digging, I found exactly what I needed. Tulsa Municipal Code Section 18-116. Emergency warning systems are completely exempt from noise restrictions. Not sometimes, always. Monday morning brought Code Enforcement Officer Mike Reynolds to my door, coffee breath mixing with the scent of approaching rain clouds. "Sir, I need to inspect this alleged noise violation," he said, clearly uncomfortable with the whole situation. "Absolutely, but Mike, let me save you some time." I handed him a printed copy of the municipal exemption, watching his face transform from official concern to embarrassed confusion. "Ma'am," he called Dolores on speakerphone right there in my driveway, "this equipment is legally protected. I can't cite this gentleman for anything." The silence stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. Then, barely contained fury. "There must be some mistake." "No mistake, ma'am. This installation is fully compliant with city code." Mike left with an apologetic handshake and a muttered, "People really need to read the actual ordinances before filing complaints." The crunch of his boots on my gravel driveway sounded like my first small victory. Dolores escalated immediately. Thursday's certified letter from Hammond and Associates arrived in an envelope designed to intimidate, thick, official, the kind that makes homeowners' hearts skip beats. Inside was a cease and desist demand, written in the most threatening legal language money could buy. Immediate removal required. Failure to comply will result in foreclosure proceedings against your property. Foreclosure. Over a tornado siren that could save lives. The audacity was breathtaking. I dealt with enough lawyers during Sarah's medical battles to know when someone was bluffing. Oklahoma law requires 120 days written notice for HOA foreclosures, plus court approval. More importantly, my late father had been a small-town attorney who drilled one thing into my head. Life safety equipment always trumps property covenants, son. Always. Turns out Dad was right. State emergency preparedness laws create what attorneys call a superior claim that overrides HOA restrictions. Patricia Samuel, Tulsa's best property attorney, confirmed my suspicions over coffee in her leather-scented office. "Marcus, they're not just wrong, they're aggressively wrong. If they try foreclosure over legally protected safety equipment, we can sue them for our attorney fees under the frivolous litigation statute." How frivolous are we talking? They're threatening to take your house over equipment the state specifically protects. I'd call that weapons-grade stupidity. While Patricia crafted our nuclear response letter, I made an interesting discovery during my evening property surveys. The smell of diesel fuel from generators mixed with sweet honeysuckle as I reviewed drone footage of our neighborhood, looking for any other violations Dolores might target. That's when I spotted it. Dolores's own house had a beautiful deck addition that wasn't on any permit records. The irony was absolutely delicious. She'd been torturing me over fully permitted, legally protected safety equipment, while her own property violated actual building codes. That deck extension looked expensive, maybe $15,000 worth of unpermitted construction that didn't meet current setback requirements. I could have reported her immediately, watched the city make her tear down her precious outdoor entertaining space. Instead, I saved the documentation. Sometimes, the best ammunition is the kind you keep in reserve. Friday brought neighborhood warfare to a head. Dolores organized a petition drive, clicking aggressively down sidewalks on her designer heels, like a general inspecting troops. "That eyesore is destroying our property values," I heard her tell Mrs. Patterson. "We need community solidarity to protect our investments." But something beautiful started happening. The Hendersons began their own counter-petition. Pete Martinez printed flyers explaining emergency equipment protections. Even quiet Mrs. Patterson surprised everyone. "I'd rather have early warning than worry about property values when I'm dead." Sunday evening, purple storm clouds gathered on the horizon, and my siren activated for its first real emergency. Severe thunderstorm watch with possible tornado activity. 12 families took immediate shelter. Dolores's house sat empty and dark. They'd fled town for the weekend, abandoning the neighborhood she claimed to protect. Dolores came back from her weekend getaway with blood in her eyes. "Hello, morning." She was pounding on my door before I'd finished my first cup of coffee. The bitter taste of Colombian dark roast mixed with pure adrenaline as I opened the door to find her flanked by two men in $1,000 suits. "Mr. Blackwood, I'm attorney James Hammond," the older one announced, his cologne thick enough to choke a horse. "We're here regarding your illegal structure." Dolores stood behind him, wearing the kind of smug expression people get when they think they've just checkmate you. "This ends today, Marcus. Remove that eyesore or we'll take your house." The legal papers felt heavy in my hands, more of that expensive cardstock Dolores loved, covered in the kind of threatening language designed to make homeowners fold immediately. They were demanding removal of my public nuisance and threatening foreclosure through HOA liens for ongoing covenant violations. "Gentlemen," I said, keeping my voice steady, "you might want to review state emergency preparedness laws before proceeding." Hammond's younger associate whispered something urgent in his ear. For just a moment, that confident swagger flickered. "We'll be in touch, Mr. Blackwood." After they left, I sat in my kitchen shaking with rage. Sarah found me there, her soft hand warm against my neck. "They can't really take our house, can they?" "Not if I have anything to say about it." That afternoon, I drove to the county courthouse, breathing in that familiar mixture of floor wax and old paper that always reminded me of my father's law office. Dad had been a small-town attorney who taught me one crucial lesson. When bullies threaten you with the law, son, you'd better know that law better than they do. After 3 hours of digging through dusty filing cabinets, I struck gold. The original 1987 HOA covenant documents contained a grandfather clause in subsection 4.7. 3. Existing emergency preparedness measures installed in accordance with county emergency management protocols shall be permanently protected from covenant restrictions. My hands trembled slightly as I photocopied the relevant pages. Dolores's own HOA documents specifically protected equipment exactly like mine. Hammond had either done zero research or Dolores had lied to him about my county pre-approval. But that wasn't the only discovery that day. While researching Brad's storm damage company, I'd uncovered something that made my stomach turn. Sooner Storm Solutions had been systematically overcharging storm victims by an average of 43% above market rates. They were getting preferred vendor status from insurance companies through a system of kickbacks disguised as consulting fees. The pattern was sickening. Suppress early warnings, maximize destruction, inflate repair costs, split the blood money. This wasn't petty HOA politics. This was organized fraud targeting families at their most vulnerable moments. Patricia Samuel's reaction when I showed her the covenant documents was priceless. "Marcus, this is absolutely beautiful. Their own paperwork protects your equipment. We're not just defending, we're going on offense." "What do you mean?" "Harassment lawsuit, abuse of authority, selective enforcement. And if this insurance fraud angle pans out, we might be looking at federal crimes." That evening brought an unexpected ally. Sarah came home from her cancer follow-up with news that made my heart race for entirely different reasons. Clean scan, 6 months cancer-free, she said, collapsing into my arms. The familiar scent of hospital antiseptic on her clothes couldn't diminish my relief. There's something else, she continued. I ran into Janet Rodriguez at the clinic. She's an investigator with the Oklahoma Insurance Commission, and when I mentioned our situation, her whole demeanor changed. Changed how? She's been tracking insurance fraud in storm restoration companies. Apparently, they've received multiple anonymous tips about firms that actively discourage early warning systems to maximize claim values. The pieces clicked together like a perfectly tuned weather instrument. We weren't alone in this fight. Someone else was building a case against Brad and Dolores's operation. Tuesday morning brought Dolores's most desperate gambit yet, a false police report claiming I'd threatened her. Deputy Walsh arrived just as I was running my Siren's monthly test, the mechanical wail echoing across vinyl-sided houses like a call to arms. "Sir, we received a complaint about threatening behavior," Walsh said, clearly uncomfortable. The leather of his duty belt creaked as he shifted nervously. I handed him copies of every interaction I documented, emails, recorded phone calls, witness statements. "Deputy, everything I've said to Ms. Whitman has been recorded or witnessed by third parties." Walsh spent 20 minutes reviewing my documentation, while neighbors gathered on their porches, drawn by the patrol car. When he finished, his expression had shifted from official concern to barely contained disgust. "Mr. Blackwood, not only do I see no evidence of threats, but it appears you've been the victim of systematic harassment. Keep documenting everything." As he drove away, Walsh rolled down his window. "Sir, keep that siren running. My family lives here too." That evening, Patricia called with news that should have felt like victory. Hammond and Associates had withdrawn their cease and desist after discovering the grandfather clause. But something cold settled in my stomach as she spoke. "Patricia, this feels too easy. Dolores doesn't strike me as someone who gives up." "You're right to be worried, Marcus. Cornered animals are the most dangerous kind." The next morning, I discovered just how dangerous a cornered Dolores could be. I found the severed power lines at 6 a.m. Thursday morning, coiled in the wet grass like dead copper snakes. Someone had used professional wire cutters to slice clean through my Siren's main power feed during the night. The metallic smell of exposed wiring mixed with morning dew made my stomach churn. This wasn't vandalism. This was sabotage designed to kill my early warning system during active severe weather season. Sarah found me crouched beside the damage, rain beginning to patter on the leaves above us. "Marcus, who would do something this evil? Someone who profits when people can't protect themselves." Deputy Walsh's boots squelched in the muddy ground as he examined the severed cables. "This is felony criminal mischief, Mr. Blackwood. Maybe attempted endangerment if we can prove intent. I'm recommending you install security cameras immediately." By noon, 8 high-definition cameras were monitoring every inch of my property, their red recording lights blinking like electronic sentries. $3,000 I hadn't planned to spend, but 30 years of tracking storms had taught me the value of comprehensive data collection. The cameras proved their worth within days. Friday afternoon's footage showed Dolores arriving with a city inspector I'd never seen before. A nervous-looking man who kept checking his phone while she pointed accusingly at my equipment. They spent 20 minutes walking my property line, him taking notes while she gestured dramatically at perfectly legal installations. The surprise inspection notice arrived Monday, demanding immediate access to verify compliance with updated safety standards. The language reeked of bureaucratic fishing expedition, the kind designed to manufacture violations where none existed. But I'd spent 3 decades dealing with Federal Weather Service inspections. Every component exceeded current NOAA specifications. Every connection was commercial grade. Every safety protocol had been followed to the letter. Inspector Martinez showed up Tuesday morning looking apologetic, his clipboard thick with forms that smelled like fresh printer ink. The sweet scent of Sarah's honeysuckle mixed with his aftershave as we toured my installation. "Sir, I need to be honest," he said after 2 hours of measurements. "This is the most professionally installed private warning system I've encountered. Your complainant is going to be severely disappointed. Can I get that assessment in writing?" "Already documenting it. Your system doesn't just meet code, it sets the standard." That evening brought a phone call that chilled my blood. Unknown number, gravelly voice I'd never heard. "Your wife's cancer treatments are at Mercy Hospital, right? Be a shame if something happened to interrupt her recovery. The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone with trembling hands. They weren't just targeting my equipment anymore. They were threatening Sarah. Deputy Walsh's expression darkened when I reported the call. "Mr. Blackwood, we're escalating this to Detective Division. Death threats targeting cancer patients? That's federal territory." But the real breakthrough came Wednesday night, while reviewing weekend security footage. There, clear as lightning in the darkness, Brad's white Sooner Storm Solutions truck parked at our street corner Saturday night, engine running, lights dark. At 2:17 a.m., a figure in dark clothing emerged from the passenger side and walked directly toward my property. The timestamp perfectly matched when my power lines were cut. More damning, the figure carried what looked like professional electrical tools and moved with the confidence of someone familiar with the equipment. I'd caught them red-handed. Not just the sabotage, but direct evidence linking it to Brad's company vehicle. Thursday brought Dolores's most unhinged performance yet. I was conducting my monthly system test when she appeared in my driveway with 3 cronies holding professionally printed protest signs, "Stop the noise" and "Safety first." Irony so thick it was suffocating. "I'm live streaming this illegal harassment," she announced, phone held high like a digital weapon. "Everyone will see how Marcus Blackwood terrorizes our peaceful community." The smell of approaching thunderstorms mixed with her overpowering perfume as she stepped closer, close enough for my cameras to capture every word. "You're going to remove this monstrosity, or I'll destroy your life piece by piece." "Are you threatening me, Ms. Whitman?" "I'm guaranteeing it. Your sick wife, your precious house, everything you care about. I'll find a way to take it all." Every venomous word was captured in crystal clear HD. Every threat against Sarah, every admission of malicious intent, every moment of her completely unhinged tirade was being recorded for future prosecution. That night, severe thunderstorms swept through Tulsa County with unusual intensity. My siren activated 3 times, sending 19 families to shelter as tornado-force winds ripped through our subdivision. Baseball-sized hail shattered windows, downed power lines, and caused over $200,000 in neighborhood damage. The Hendersons' toddlers were safe in their basement because of my 12-minute early warning. Pete Martinez's classic car survived in his garage instead of being destroyed in his driveway. Mrs. Patterson's medications stayed dry because she had time to secure her home. But Dolores and Brad? Out of town again, attending another convenient conference, while the storms they'd left us defenseless against tried to kill their neighbors. The pattern was becoming undeniable. They'd rather flee than trust the safety systems they were systematically destroying. And that's when I realized their fatal flaw. They'd never actually experienced what they were putting everyone else through. That was about to change. The manila envelope appeared under my door like a ghost's calling card. No footprints in the morning dew, no tire tracks, just evidence that would change everything. Inside were photocopied documents that smelled like fear and desperation. Internal memos from Consolidated Insurance Group, Brad's biggest client. A handwritten note in shaky cursive read, "I can't stay silent anymore. They destroyed my family too. Check the Riverside HOA files. Someone who cares." My coffee grew cold as I spread the papers across my kitchen table. Morning sunlight revealing the scope of a conspiracy that made my blood freeze. Brad's company hadn't just been overcharging storm victims. They'd been engineering the destruction itself. Internal emails spelled it out in corporate speak that barely disguised the evil. Homeowner preparation significantly reduces claim profitability. Advanced warning systems decrease average payouts by 58%. Recommend continued suppression of private weather monitoring in designated target zones. Target zones. They were hunting neighborhoods like predators. A spreadsheet labeled Revenue Enhancement 2023 to 2025 showed the blood money in black and white. $2.7 million in inflated claims across 17 communities. But the page that made me physically sick was titled Network Coordination Fees, Payments to HOA Presidents for Discouraging Preventive Measures. Dolores had received $127,000 over 2 years, not for property management or real estate services, for keeping people defenseless against storms. The anonymous tipster had included a business card. Kevin Walsh, former claims adjuster, Consolidated Insurance. I recognized the last name immediately. Deputy Walsh's brother. That's why Kevin's handwriting looked familiar. He'd been inside the operation until his conscience broke. I called the number with trembling fingers. Kevin's voice was hollow, broken. "Marcus, they fired me for refusing to approve fraudulent claims. But I kept copies of everything. They've been doing this for 3 years, targeting HOAs with weak boards they could corrupt. How many victims? Hundreds, maybe thousands. The Riverside subdivision? They banned weather radios 2 weeks before the April tornadoes. 43 homes destroyed, average claims inflated by 60%. Brad's crew made over $800,000 on that single storm event." My hands were shaking as I took notes. These weren't numbers on a spreadsheet. They were families who'd lost everything because someone wanted to maximize their misery for profit. "Kevin, why come forward now?" His voice cracked. "Because my 8-year-old daughter asked me why her friend's family had to move away after their house got destroyed." I realized that was part of the machine that hurt kids. That afternoon, I called victim families across Oklahoma, each conversation breaking my heart a little more. Janet Morrison in Broken Arrow. "The HOA said weather radios attracted lightning. We believed them. Lost everything in the May storms. House, cars, my husband's antique tool collection. Insurance said it was unavoidable loss, but the bills seemed astronomical." Tom Bradley in Edmond. "They foreclosure threatened us over our weather station. 3 weeks later, straight-line winds cost us $90,000. The repairs took forever and cost twice what neighbors paid for similar work." Every story followed the same blood-soaked blueprint. Eliminate early warning, maximize destruction, inflate repair costs, split the proceeds. The scope was breathtaking and terrifying. This wasn't isolated to Willowbrook Estates. It was a multi-county criminal enterprise that had perfected the art of profiting from preventable disasters. That evening, Patricia Samuel's voice was grim over the phone. "Marcus, you've uncovered a federal RICO case. Wire fraud, conspiracy, maybe even domestic terrorism charges for deliberately exposing communities to deadly weather. What's our next move?" "FBI Financial Crimes Unit, first thing tomorrow. This evidence could bring down their entire network." As thunder rolled across Oklahoma's darkening sky, I stared at the documents that had shifted the balance of power completely. I was no longer the victim of petty HOA harassment. I was the whistleblower who could destroy a criminal conspiracy that had weaponized Mother Nature herself against innocent families. The hunters had become the hunted. The FBI field office smelled like burnt coffee and impending justice. Special Agent Rebecca Torres spread my evidence across a conference table, scarred by decades of criminal cases. But nothing quite like this conspiracy. Her fingers traced the money trail connecting HOA harassment to storm destruction to insurance fraud. A paper trail of organized evil that made even seasoned federal agents shake their heads. "Mr. Blackwood, in 15 years of financial crimes, I've never seen anything this systematic," she said, tapping a bank record showing Dolores's latest $15,000 kickback payment. "We're talking federal RICO charges, 20-year minimum sentences. What do you need?" "You, wearing a wire, getting them to confess while we record everything. Are you prepared to put yourself in that kind of danger?" I thought about Sarah at home, cancer-free but still checking her scars every morning. About families across Oklahoma sleeping in hotel rooms because their homes were gone. Destroyed by storms they never saw coming because someone silenced their warnings for profit. Agent Torres, they turned severe weather into a weapon against innocent people. What choice do I have? Then let's take them down properly. My basement became War Room Central over the next 3 weeks. Wall charts connected HOA, harassment campaigns to storm events to inflated payouts. A spider web of corruption that would make any jury physically ill. Sarah helped organize victim testimonials, her gentle hand sorting through stories of destroyed lives, while the rich aroma of her Colombian coffee kept us alert during 18-hour strategy sessions. The technical preparation had to be flawless. Torres arranged FBI cyber monitoring of Brad's communications, while I upgraded my security system to capture courthouse-quality evidence. Every camera angle was calculated, every audio pickup tested, until we could record a whispered confession from 50 feet away. But the most valuable asset was Kevin Walsh, the insurance insider feeding us real-time intelligence. His brother, Deputy Walsh, had quietly coordinated family safety. If things went sideways during the sting, civilians would be protected. Marcus, Kevin explained during a clandestine meeting at a truck stop outside Tulsa, diesel fumes mixing with his nervous sweat. Brad's company has pre-positioned crews for storm response the day after your HOA meeting. They're so confident people will be defenseless, they've already ordered overtime crews and extra equipment. The audacity was breathtaking, scheduling cleanup crews before causing the destruction. Patricia Samuel coordinated the legal trap with surgical precision. Federal asset forfeiture paperwork was prepared to seize every penny of their stolen wealth the moment arrests were made. Houses, cars, business assets, even offshore accounts Kevin had identified. Everything they'd bought with blood money would be returned to victims. Here's something beautiful about federal asset forfeiture, Patricia explained over lunch, hot pastrami sandwich forgotten as she outlined the strategy. The government doesn't just take criminal proceeds, they add penalties and interest. Brad and Dolores won't just lose their stolen millions, they'll owe additional damages to every family they've hurt. But Mother Nature herself was providing the perfect trap. My enhanced weather monitoring detected atmospheric conditions building toward what meteorologists call a perfect storm scenario. Wind shear, temperature differentials, and moisture content aligning for potential supercell development. The HOA meeting was scheduled for Thursday night, right in the peak probability window. Agent Torres, what if we could catch them suppressing warnings during an actual severe weather emergency? Her expression shifted to predatory satisfaction. You mean document them silencing tornado alerts while tornadoes are actually forming? That's not just fraud. That's attempted mass casualty negligence. No jury would show mercy. The timing was poetry, written by physics and criminal stupidity. Torres positioned undercover agents as concerned residents throughout the meeting. Channel 8 News would cover the community governance story, actually preparing to broadcast federal arrests during live severe weather coverage. The venue itself was perfect. Community clubhouse windows faced southwest, ideal for dramatic storm footage. When those supercells developed, every threat Dolores made would be captured against a backdrop of the very danger she was leaving people defenseless against. My role required nerves of steel and perfect execution. I'd attend wearing an FBI wire, documented every confession, while backup cameras captured redundant footage. If Dolores banned my siren during active tornado warnings, federal prosecutors would have her cold on charges ranging from conspiracy to attempted endangerment of life. The practical knowledge that would save lives came from my decades tracking severe weather. Most people don't realize that tornado sirens are designed to alert people outdoors, not indoors. For sleeping families, early home-based warning systems provide 8 to 12 minutes of additional survival time, the difference between life and death in Tornado Alley. That's why suppressing private early warning equipment isn't just theft, it's attempted murder disguised as property management. Wednesday evening, I found Sarah organizing victim photos, families who'd lost everything because criminals had silenced their safety systems. The metallic taste of nervous anticipation filled my mouth as thunder rumbled outside our reinforced windows. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" she asked, her voice steady despite everything we'd been through. "Honey, I've been ready since the day she threatened to hurt you." Outside, atmospheric pressure was dropping. Supercells were building on the horizon. And tomorrow night, Dolores would learn why you never silence tornado warnings in Oklahoma. The perfect storm was coming, and she'd be standing right in its path. Desperation makes people dangerous, and Dolores was about to prove it. Monday morning, I found her white Escalade parked across from my house at dawn, engine running, exhaust mixing with morning mist like a stalking predator's breath. She sat there for 47 minutes, according to my security timestamps, cell phone pressed to her ear in what looked like increasingly frantic conversations. Agent Torres called an hour later with news that explained Dolores's panic. "Marcus, our financial surveillance detected massive asset movement over the weekend. Brad's company liquidated $340,000 into shell accounts. They know the walls are closing in. How much time do we have? They're not running yet. Too much money still on the table, but they're definitely preparing exit strategies. The metallic taste of anticipation mixed with Sarah's coffee, as I realized we were entering the most dangerous phase. Cornered criminals with millions at stake don't surrender quietly. Tuesday brought Dolores's most brazen counterattack. A formal harassment complaint claiming I'd been surveilling her residence and making threatening gestures toward her family. The paperwork was expertly crafted legal fiction, designed to flip our roles, making me the stalker instead of the victim. Deputy Walsh looked physically ill serving the temporary restraining order. Marcus, this is complete garbage, but procedure requires I deliver it. She claims you've been driving past her house, photographing her children. Jim, I haven't left my property except for groceries. My security system tracks my car's exact movements. I know, but she's got a witness. Randy Fletcher swears he saw you taking pictures Sunday afternoon. Fletcher, one of her real estate cronies who'd perjure himself for a closing commission. The corruption network was circling the wagons to protect their cash cow. Wednesday's escalation targeted what Dolores feared most, my documentation. I was analyzing storm patterns when my doorbell rang. A nervous man in city coveralls claiming to be conducting emergency electrical inspections following recent storm damage. Sir, we've received reports of unauthorized modifications to your power system, he stammered, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool morning air. Need to verify compliance with updated safety codes. Something felt wrong. Real city inspectors don't show up unannounced, and this guy's hands shook like he'd never held electrical equipment in his life. I called the city building department while he waited on my porch. Ma'am, could you verify Inspector Badge 4778? He's here claiming emergency authority over my electrical system. The confused receptionist's voice carried clearly through my speaker. Sir, that badge number belongs to Inspector Martinez, who's currently in Broken Arrow. We have no inspector at your location. The fake inspector's face went white as I hung up. You want to explain who sent you here, or should I call the FBI directly? He ran, actually sprinted to a pickup truck parked 3 houses down, engine already running. By the time I got my security footage uploaded to Agent Torres, the plates came back as stolen. But the real attack came that evening in a way that made my blood freeze. Sarah was watering her garden when a man approached our fence, claiming to be from her oncology clinic with urgent test results that required immediate consultation. The smell of honeysuckle and fear mixed in the humid air as I watched through my window. Sarah's face went pale. Any cancer survivor's worst nightmare is unexpected medical news. But something about the man's body language triggered my protective instincts. Honey, come inside and call Dr. Peterson's office directly, I called out. The fake medical messenger disappeared into the neighborhood as quickly as he'd appeared. Sarah's hands were trembling when she reached the real oncology clinic. Dr. Peterson? Did someone from your office try to contact me at home today? No? No test results pending? Thank God. They weren't just targeting my equipment anymore. They were terrorizing my cancer survivor wife with fake medical emergencies. The cruelty was breathtaking. Agent Torres's voice was grim when I reported the incident. Marcus, they're escalating to psychological warfare. This suggests they're planning something major for tomorrow night and want you emotionally compromised. What kind of major? Our surveillance indicates Brad's crew has rented industrial equipment supposedly for emergency storm cleanup. But the rental occurred before any storms are forecast. We think they're planning to physically destroy your Siren during tomorrow's meeting. The picture crystallized with terrifying clarity. While I was trapped in the HOA meeting defending my equipment legally, Brad's crew would be destroying it physically. By the time I got home, my neighborhood's early warning system would be scrap metal. Thursday morning brought one final threat that confirmed our worst fears. I found a note tucked under my windshield wiper, written in the same block letters as previous anonymous messages. Your wife beat cancer once. Stress can bring it back. Remove the Siren or find out what stress can do. My hands shook with pure rage as I photographed the note. They were threatening to give Sarah cancer through stress, the most evil thing I'd ever encountered. But they'd made a crucial mistake. The note was written on letterhead from Hammond and Associates, Dolores's law firm. Even criminals sometimes use whatever paper is handy. Tonight, when those storm clouds gathered and Dolores made her final play for control, she'd learned that some people fight dirtiest when defending the ones they love. And I loved my wife more than I feared anything they could do to me. Thursday morning arrived with an ominous stillness that every meteorologist recognizes as nature's warning shot. The barometric pressure was dropping faster than I'd seen in years. My instruments showed a 12 millibar decline since midnight. Outside my kitchen window, birds were acting erratic, flying in confused circles instead of their normal patterns. Even my neighbor's dog was whimpering and pacing, sensing something humans couldn't yet feel. Sarah found me studying weather data over untouched breakfast, the smell of her blueberry pancakes mixing with ozone from the approaching atmospheric disturbance. "The meeting's in 8 hours," she said softly. "Are you ready?" "Honey, I've been ready since they threatened to hurt you." Agent Torres called at 10 a.m. with final tactical updates. "Marcus, our meteorology unit confirms supercell probability at 78% for this evening. If this plays out as forecast, you'll have active tornado warnings during the HOA vote. Perfect timing for catching them red-handed. There's more. Our surveillance detected Brad positioning equipment trucks around your neighborhood since dawn. They're definitely planning something during the meeting." I spent the afternoon doing final equipment checks while watching those trucks circulate like vultures. Brad's crews were staging for rapid deployment, probably planning to disable my siren the moment I left for the clubhouse. The irony was perfect. They'd destroy the warning system just as the warnings became critically needed. By 3 p.m., the atmospheric tension was becoming physical. That strange stillness before severe weather, when the air itself seems to hold its breath. My enhanced monitoring station detected wind shear developing 30 miles southwest, the early signature of rotating supercells. The neighborhood felt different too. Dolores's faction had been conducting whisper campaigns all week, spreading rumors that tonight's vote would finally restore peace and property values. But my allies were quietly prepared. The Hendersons had their twins' emergency bags ready. Pete Martinez had secured his yard and checked his safe room supplies. Even Mrs. Patterson had stocked extra batteries for her weather radio. At 4 p.m., my security cameras caught something that made my stomach clench. Dolores and Brad having what looked like a heated argument in her driveway, their body language suggesting last-minute coordination, or perhaps growing panic. Brad kept pointing toward my house while Dolores made sharp, angry gestures. Whatever they were planning, the stress was showing. The FBI wire check at 5 p.m. felt like suiting up for battle. Agent Torres tested the hidden recording device while explaining contingency protocols. "Marcus, if things turn violent, our agents will intervene immediately. Your safety takes priority over evidence gathering. What about the other families? If they destroy my siren during active severe weather, we've discreetly contacted emergency management. Mobile warning units will be positioned nearby as backup, but hopefully we'll have them in custody before any storms hit." At 6 p.m., the first tornado watch was issued for central Oklahoma. My siren activated automatically, its mechanical voice echoing across the subdivision. The National Weather Service has issued a tornado watch for this area until midnight. Monitor weather conditions and be prepared to take shelter immediately if warnings are issued. Through my window, I watched neighbors checking their phones and securing outdoor items. The Hendersons brought their patio furniture inside. Pete Martinez moved his classic car into the garage. Normal people responding normally to weather warnings, exactly what Dolores was trying to prevent. But Dolores's house remained unchanged. No preparation, no precautions. Either she was supremely confident in her ability to flee danger, or she genuinely didn't understand the forces she was playing with. 30 minutes before the meeting, Sarah helped me adjust the FBI wire, her fingers gentle but trembling slightly. "Marcus, if anything happens to you, nothing's going to happen. We have federal agents, local police, and enough evidence to convict them 10 times over. This ends tonight." The drive to the clubhouse took me past Brad's staging areas, 3 trucks with storm cleanup equipment parked just outside our subdivision boundaries. Professional crews waiting for orders to move in the moment I was trapped in the meeting. Their timing would have been perfect if we hadn't known about it. At the clubhouse, early arrivals were already gathering. Dolores's supporters clustered near the front, whispering among themselves with the nervous energy of people about to watch an execution. My allies sat further back, quietly determined. Dolores herself held court near the podium, wearing her best power suit and that predatory smile that had terrorized our neighborhood for months. She kept checking her phone, probably coordinating with Brad's crews for the precise timing of their equipment destruction. What she didn't know was that every message was being intercepted by FBI surveillance. Every coordination call was being recorded, Every criminal conspiracy was being documented in real time. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, the first audible warning of the atmospheric violence building on the horizon. Through the clubhouse's large windows, I could see storm clouds gathering in the southwest, dark and angry, and moving our direction with surprising speed. The perfect storm was no longer a metaphor. It was bearing down on us at 40 miles per hour, carrying winds that could level buildings and justice that had been 30 years in the making. Dolores called the meeting to order, just as the first lightning flickered in the distance. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we end the tyranny of noise pollution in our community." Dolores's voice carried that familiar tone of absolute authority as she called the HOA meeting to order. Outside the clubhouse windows, lightning flickered in storm clouds that looked like nature's own courtroom drama. The smell of approaching rain mixed with nervous sweat from 50 neighbors packed into folding chairs. Our first order of business is the immediate removal of Marcus Blackwood's unauthorized noise-making device. I stood up, FBI wire capturing every word. "Point of order, Ms. Whitman. The device is fully authorized by county emergency services and protected under state law. Your so-called emergency equipment is nothing but a public nuisance that destroys our property values," she snapped, her composure already cracking. "I have 12 votes to ban it permanently." That's when the National Weather Service radio in the corner crackled to life. "Tornado warning issued for central Tulsa County. Doppler radar indicates rotation 7 miles southwest of Willowbrook Estates, moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. Take shelter immediately." The room went dead silent. Through the windows, we could see the storm's leading edge approaching, a wall of black clouds shot through with green light that every Oklahoman recognizes as tornado weather. My siren activated automatically, its warning call cutting through the night like a mechanical angel of salvation. "Tornado warning. Seek shelter immediately. Tornado warning." "Turn that damn thing off," Dolores screamed, her voice rising to match the wind outside. "We're voting to ban it right now." "Ma'am," Pete Martinez called from the back, "there's a tornado warning in effect. Maybe we should—" "I don't care about weather warnings. That siren is illegal noise pollution, and it ends tonight." Agent Torres, disguised as a concerned homeowner in the third row, activated her hidden camera as Dolores's mask completely slipped. Here was an HOA president demanding the silencing of tornado warnings during an active tornado emergency. Federal prosecutors' dream footage. The vote was a sham, conducted while emergency sirens wailed outside. All in favor of immediate removal of the illegal noise device? 12 hands shot up, while thunder shook the building. Motion passed. "Mr. Blackwood, you have until tomorrow to remove that monstrosity, or face foreclosure." That's when the lights flickered and died, emergency lighting casting eerie shadows as the storm's full fury arrived. Through the windows, we could see debris flying horizontally, tree branches, patio furniture, pieces of someone's roof. My phone buzzed with a text I'd been expecting. "Equipment destroyed. Problem solved. B." Brad's crew had used the storm as cover to destroy my siren system. While we debated its legality, they'd eliminated it physically. The perfect crime, if I hadn't anticipated exactly this scenario. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, standing in the emergency lighting as rain hammered the windows, "I need to share something important about tonight's vote." I activated my backup recording device, not the FBI wire, but a simple digital recorder that had captured everything. Dolores's voice filled the room. "I don't care about weather warnings. That siren is illegal noise pollution." The gasps from neighbors were audible, even over the storm. Mrs. Patterson's voice was shaking. "Dolores, you just banned tornado warnings during a tornado warning. You voted to silence safety equipment while that equipment was actively trying to save our lives," Pete Martinez added, his Vietnam veteran's voice carrying moral authority that made Dolores shrink back. That's when Agent Torres revealed herself. "FBI, everyone remain calm and seated. Ms. Whitman, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, racketeering, and federal conspiracy charges." The timing was cinematically perfect. As handcuffs clicked onto Dolores's wrists, the tornado itself became visible through the western windows, a dark funnel silhouetted against lightning, moving directly toward our subdivision. "My house," someone screamed. "We need to get to shelter." But here's what Dolores didn't know about my preparation. I'd installed backup sirens powered by independent battery systems. Even with my main tower destroyed, secondary alerts were already guiding families to safety. The Hendersons were in their basement with the twins. Pete Martinez was secure in his storm shelter. Mrs. Patterson had activated her safe room. The tornado struck Dolores' street with surgical precision. Through the clubhouse windows, we watched in horrified fascination as the funnel tore directly through her property, peeling away her roof like opening a tin can, lifting her white Escalade and depositing it 3 houses down as twisted metal. Brad arrived at that moment, presumably to coordinate post-storm cleanup profits, and ran straight into FBI agents in the parking lot. The sight of him being arrested while his wife's McMansion disintegrated behind him was justice served at 150 miles per hour. "Ma'am," Agent Torres said to Dolores as the tornado moved on, "you spent months trying to silence the warnings that could have saved your house. The irony is not lost on federal prosecutors." As emergency crews arrived and the storm passed, one fact emerged crystal clear. 0 casualties in families who'd received early warning from backup systems, compared to multiple injuries in households that had trusted Dolores' leadership over meteorological reality. "This is Marcus Blackwood broadcasting on emergency frequencies," I announced through my ham radio, as the all-clear was given. "Tornado has passed. All families with early warning systems report safe. Community shelter available at the clubhouse for anyone needing assistance." 6 months later, I'm sitting in my rebuilt storm shelter, watching Sarah tend her garden, while our neighborhood kids play safely in the yard, protected by the most comprehensive early warning network in Oklahoma. The tornado that destroyed Dolores' house killed nobody. 0 casualties, 0 serious injuries, 0 families left wondering if they could have been saved with more warning time. Compare that to the 43 families Brad and Dolores' conspiracy had victimized over 3 years, and the contrast speaks for itself. Federal prosecutors called it the most comprehensive insurance fraud RICO case in Oklahoma history. Dolores got 8 years for conspiracy, racketeering, and wire fraud. Brad received 6 years plus $4.2 million in restitution to victims. Their entire criminal network, 17 HOA board members, 12 insurance adjusters, and 31 contractors, fell like dominoes once the evidence started flowing. The Oklahoma legislature passed what they officially call the Emergency Preparedness Protection Act, but everyone knows as Marcus's Law. HOAs can no longer restrict weather monitoring equipment, tornado sirens, or any life safety systems approved by emergency management. The irony is beautiful. Dolores' attempt to silence one siren ended up protecting weather warning systems statewide. Our neighborhood transformed completely after the arrests. The new HOA board unanimously elected me as Emergency Preparedness Coordinator, a position that didn't exist before, but now serves as a model for communities across Tornado Alley. 5 neighboring subdivisions have installed similar early warning networks, all coordinated through our central monitoring station. Property values? They increased 12% after the enhanced safety systems were installed. Turns out families with young children actually prefer neighborhoods where someone gives a damn about keeping people alive. Sarah's cancer remains in remission, helped considerably by the stress reduction that came with defeating our tormentors. She started a support group for families dealing with both medical crises and HOA harassment. Apparently, it's more common than you'd think. Some people prey on vulnerable families, she tells her group. But vulnerability can also make us stronger when we stand together. The financial justice was particularly satisfying. Federal asset forfeiture seized every penny Brad and Dolores had stolen, plus penalties and interest. Their houses, cars, business assets, even offshore accounts Kevin Walsh had helped identify. Everything went to victim compensation funds. The families who'd lost everything got their money back, with interest. I used my portion of the Whistleblower reward to establish the Severe Weather Safety Scholarship at Oklahoma State University's meteorology program. Every year, we send 3 students to study atmospheric science, with specific focus on early warning systems for underserved communities. The scholarship recipients spend summers installing weather monitoring equipment in rural schools and mobile home parks, places that need protection most but can afford it least. Our annual Tornado Preparedness Festival has become a regional event, drawing families from across central Oklahoma for weather safety education, storm spotter training, and community networking. Local emergency management calls it the most effective public preparedness program they've ever seen. Kids learn storm safety through games and demonstrations. Parents share resources and contact information, and everyone goes home better prepared for severe weather season. The Hendersons twins, now 3 years old, call my rebuilt Siren tower the voice that keeps us safe. Pete Martinez, at 72, has become our neighborhood's unofficial storm spotter coordinator. Mrs. Patterson, cancer-free for 8 years running, bakes cookies for every new family that moves in, and personally explains our early warning procedures. Last month, I got a call from a homeowner in Colorado. Marcus, our HOA is trying to ban our wildfire evacuation equipment. We heard about your case and wondered if you could help. Sarah smiled when I told her about the call. Honey, sounds like someone else needs our help. Apparently, there are lots of Doloreses out there, petty tyrants who put profit over people's lives. But there are also lots of families willing to fight back when they learn how.
Here's what nobody talks about in HOA dispute. It's never really about the rules. Dolores didn't care about property value or noisy ordinances. She cared about control, and when people get drunk in tiny parties, they destroy anything that reminds them they're not actually in charge. Even if it's the thing keeping people alive. Edward understood something more homeowner don't. Bully only respect one thing: consequences. Not complain, not reason, not playing nice. Consequences. If you're in federal prison, 4.2 million in restitution. That's what happened when your little kingdom turns into a crime scene. But here, the real lesson. Edward didn't win by being the loudest guy in the room. He won by documenting everything, knowing the law better than his enemies, and staying focused when they tried to break him. The tornado that destroyed Dolores' house, poor Pochi. But the real justice worth watching the federal judge explain the silencing safety equipment make you a criminal, not a community leader. Your HOA story in the comment, let's hear them. He's surprised for more tale of smaller tyrant meeting big consequences. The smaller the authority, the more dangerous it gets when challenged.